The first ever undisputed WWE champion, along with the first ever AEW World Champion, Chris Jericho, is rumored for a WWE return next year after his All Elite Wrestling contract expires at the end of 2025. With that being said, if Y2J does indeed return to WWE in 2026, who could be some of his return opponents? In this countdown video, we're going to let you know 5 possible return opponents for Chris Jericho in WWE. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling, and today we're going to be talking about the possible return of Chris Jericho to WWE in 2026 after his All Elite Wrestling contract expires at the end of this year. Of course, it's been a very interesting 2025 for Chris Jericho. We haven't seen the first ever AEW World Champion on AEW television since way back in April of this year. This was just after he lost the Ring of Honor World Championship to Bandito at AEW Dynasty. Since then, he said he had to go away for a while on an episode of Dynamite, disbanded the Learning Tree, went on tour with Fozzy, but is still yet to return. There have been several rumors and reports about his contract coming up this year, amid other rumors and reports suggesting that his name is being spoken about within WWE, and there are even thoughts that he could be returning as soon as the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia in 2026, marking the first time that Jericho has competed since 2018 in WWE at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. With that in mind, if indeed Le Champion returns to World Wrestling Entertainment, who could he be facing off against? Let's get into some possible return opponents for Jericho in WWE, beginning with CM Punk. Now, Chris Jericho, he has a very interesting history with the now current WWE World Heavyweight Champion, but also the former AEW World Champion CM Punk. Now, let's kind of separate this a little bit here. The reason why this would be compelling is because of their history. In WWE, CM Punk versus Chris Jericho was a WrestleMania feud. They met at WrestleMania 28 in 2012 in Miami. Of course, it was during CM Punk's lengthy, over 400-day plus reign as WWE champion. Jericho actually returned to WWE in 2012, specifically to work with CM Punk. Of course, Punk calls himself the best in the world. Jericho calls himself the best in the world as well. So it was best in the world versus best in the world. They have had a lengthy rivalry there, including, as I mentioned, matches at WrestleMania, also matches at Extreme Rules, Chicago Street Fight. So there's history within WWE. There's also, of course, history, much more personal history and real history in All Elite Wrestling. CM Punk's time in AEW from 2021 to 2023 is, of course, an incredibly controversial subject. And when all of the backstage issues were going on with Brawl Out and Brawl In and AEW Collision and all this kind of stuff, Jericho, a locker room leader in All Elite Wrestling, reportedly even got in CM Punk's face after Brawl Out and said that Punk was a cancer. There's also a bit of an infamous moment, isn't there, of Chris Jericho being in the AEW All Out press conference with Tony Khan back in 2022 and actually whispering to Khan that stuff was going on backstage and there had been a fight, there had been a brawl between Punk, Omega, and the Young Bucks in Punk's dressing room. Reportedly as well, when CM Punk was about to return to AEW programming in 2023 as part of AEW Collision, at one point Chris Jericho was actually pitched as a return rivalry for CM Punk, so much so that there was even a meeting with CM Punk and Jericho and Tony Khan to kind of thrash this thing out. Reportedly, Punk didn't want to work with Jericho. He instead wanted to work with the likes of Samoa Joe, with Ricky Starks and others on AEW Collision, and just wasn't interested in working with Jericho. In addition to that, of course, after Punk's departure, Jericho also had some things to say. I think Punk's called Jericho a stooge to Dave Meltzer in the past. Now, you might say, because of all of that baggage, that history, why would they work together in WWE? Because we've seen CM Punk work with people in WWE that he doesn't get along with, legitimately. But maybe the backstage environment or the corporate environment in WWE allows to kind of put personal issues aside and maybe work together to make money. And certainly Punk and Jericho are two people that, regardless of personal issues, they know this is pro wrestling, they know this is a business, and they'll put anything aside if it can make them money, get them attention, and put them in the spotlight. So Jericho versus Punk could be compelling in that sense, certainly. And Jericho, he's very, very smart in the sense of he always works with what's working at the time and what's popular. CM Punk in WWE is currently the World Heavyweight Champion. He's having a good run in the organization. And, you know, who's to say that Punk doesn't want to work with Jericho in the sense of he can kind of do anything to kind of twist the knife, perhaps, into All Elite Wrestling too. So Punk versus Jericho, given their history in both WWE and AEW, certainly could be compelling. I suppose the counter argument to it could be is Punk in his 40s. Jericho, how old is Chris Jericho at this point? If he does return to WWE, certainly would feel like it would be a retirement run and he wouldn't have that much time left. In addition to that, you know, he's 55 years old. So do you want to see a CM Punk? Yes, he is the world champion, but CM Punk, who is 47 years old, versus Chris Jericho at 55 years old in WWE in 2026. But I guess certainly with the name power, it would get people talking, no doubt about that. So Punk versus Jericho, I guess it could be a possibility at some point. Before we move on to the next name on this countdown list, a reminder, this video is brought to you in collaboration with all of our great affiliates. That includes NordVPN. You can see right there. You can scan our QR code or use our custom link. That's nordvpn.com/WN365. And I spoke about Chris Jericho possibly returning to WWE at the Royal Rumble next year in Saudi Arabia. That is a PLE that will be streamed on ESPN in the United States on their direct-to-consumer app. And that's just another subscription that you've got to get. You've got to watch Raw on Netflix. You've got NXT on the CW. You've got SmackDown on USA. You've got WWE main roster PLEs on ESPN. You've got NXT PLEs on Peacock. Saturday Night's Main Event is on Peacock as well. There's so many different things. But what if I told you can watch all of your WWE content through one Netflix subscription, just like we can over here in the UK. If you're in the United States, you can do that as well. All you need is a VPN that can change your location to an international territory, like here in the UK. Then you can watch through one Netflix subscription, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, main roster PLEs, and NXT PLEs, plus a load of archive content as well. So use our link right there. You can get up to 77% off, 3 months extra free. You can support the channel, save yourself some money, and just streamline your entire WWE viewing process. Oh, did I mention as well, over here in the UK, we get Saturday Night's Main Event for free on YouTube. That's right, next month you can watch John Cena's retirement match for free. Not bad going, is it? Get NordVPN today and you can support the channel in the process. Your support is much appreciated. Let's move on and talk about the possibility of Chris Jericho versus the current undisputed WWE champion, Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare. Once again, history is there in AEW because certainly a lot of people say Cody Rhodes' biggest mistake as an EVP and his biggest mistake in All Elite Wrestling was pigeonholing himself, backing himself into a creative corner where he couldn't win the AEW World Championship unless he turned heel basically and foregoed the stipulation that he put himself in. Now, back at AEW Full Gear in 2019, the main event was Chris Jericho, who had recently won the AEW World Championship, versus Cody Rhodes. If Cody Rhodes lost, he would never be able to challenge again for the AEW World Championship. Rhodes lost because MJF threw in the towel, and that was it. He could never challenge for the AEW World title again. Now, being an EVP and arguably one of, if not the face of the company at that time, many people said, just turn heel, Cody. We don't like the Codyverse. We don't like, homeland babyface Cody Rhodes. Turn heel and win the AEW World Championship. The story is right there, but Rhodes didn't want to do that. He sees and saw his money as a babyface, and it was a thing that could be seen as a factor of him leaving AEW. Now, it's not the only factor, of course. Cody Rhodes departing the company, as he stated several times, is due to a personal issue that he hasn't disclosed. Many have speculated it's something to do with him and Tony Khan. Maybe it's about pay. Maybe it's about his positioning. Maybe it's about, creative. There's a variety of different things there. But since Cody Rhodes has gone to WWE, of course, he's QB1. He's the face of the company. He's a 2-time WWE champion. He's beaten the likes of Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania. He was involved with The Rock in the final boss, and there seemingly is going to be a match or a rivalry at some point, possibly in the future. In addition to that, he's constantly getting opponents, going through opponents as the WWE champion. And Jericho could just be another opponent for Cody Rhodes to defeat. And if you're facing Cody Rhodes, you're making a lot of money right now. In addition to that, WWE does have a habit, don't they, as was evident when Punk won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, of having a lot of ex-AEW talent as champions and posing them all together, whether it's Cody as the WWE champion, Punk as the World Heavyweight champion, Jade Cargill as the Women's champion, Ricky Saints as the NXT champion, Ethan Page as the North American champion. You see a pattern here. So it could be a case of you've got an ex-AEW EVP versus the first ever AEW World Champion. That might twist the knife into All Elite Wrestling and Tony Khan just a little bit, and maybe kind of wrestle back the narrative that's out there at the moment saying that WWE is creatively at a really low point and they need something to shake things up. It would certainly get people talking. On top of that, it depends how WWE wants to book Jericho, if indeed he comes back. This idea is that Jericho coming back to WWE wouldn't be a long-term thing. It might even be akin to John Cena's retirement year. Jericho comes back and says, look, I've got a year left. I'm going to have this retirement tour and then possibly go into the Hall of Fame. If he does and is having a retirement tour, even if it's not explicitly stated as such, it's just a retirement run, then you would think at some point he's going to face the top star in WWE right now, which is Cody Rhodes. So it's another kind of torch passing moment, I guess, someone of a prior generation passing the torch over to the new face of the company, even though Jericho was never that, but he is a multiple-time world champion in WWE. It would certainly make sense in that regard. So Jericho versus Cody could certainly be on the books at some point. Next up, what about something a bit of a curveball here? What about Joe Hendry? Now, this is assuming that Joe Hendry is becoming a full-time WWE talent in 2026. We know that Hendry's contract with TNA expires at the end of this year, late into this year, which we already are at this point. He's already being phased out of TNA programming. He's no longer the TNA World Champion. Frankly, he's making more appearances for WWE on the NXT brand than he is with TNA at this point. So a bit like with Jordan Grace and others, the expectation is once Hendry is available and free to do so, he's going to be signing with WWE. Whether or not he stays in NXT and they want him to have an extended run in WWE's developmental brand, maybe win the NXT World Championship or something like that before getting called up to the main roster, time will tell. But WWE is very aware of the social media impact that Joe Hendry has. Now, maybe it's not as ravenous as it was a year ago when Joe Hendry's debut in WWE NXT was one of the most viewed moments of the year on social media. But Chris Jericho keeps an eye on that. Chris Jericho, despite his age, he knows how to stay relevant in pro wrestling. He knows how to get social media talking. And if Jericho is going to come back, of course he's going to have the high-profile feuds and matches against some of WWE's top stars, but he'll be wise enough and switched on enough to realize, actually, you know what? If I work Joe Hendry, that can go viral. And Jericho's all about going viral, whether it's catchphrases, characters, viral moments, this, that, and the other. Jericho was a very early adapter and adopter of social media, and I think he would be interested in doing that again. Plus, Joe Hendry's known for singing his entrance theme, like Jericho. He's known for having concerts in the ring, like Chris Jericho with Fozzy. There's a lot that could be done there, you know, with Fozzy concerts and Joe Hendry concerts and everything that goes in between there, I think would be quite curious. So I think Hendry versus Jericho, that could be one to watch, and something that a couple of years ago you wouldn't have thought was possible at all. Next up, what about the tribal chief, Roman Reigns? Now, I speak about Jericho possibly coming back for a retirement run in WWE. Roman Reigns' future in WWE is really up in the air. Roman Reigns, I think, has got, you know, a year or so left on his contract. He's opened up and said that he's probably opening up to slowing down and getting ready to retire. And slowing down, he's a part-time wrestler as it is. He only makes select appearances on WWE television and only really has matches on PLEs. Now, with Roman versus Jericho, I suppose it's interesting because you've got two names of star power there that have just never really faced off that much before. Certainly not in an extended feud or anything like that, one would think. So it's interesting, and I think at this point you start to go, well, what else is there for him to do, Roman Reigns, or have feuds against them before? Now, Roman has been involved in a lot of tag team matches that have involved Jericho. They have had matches against each other, mainly when it was all about, you know, Jericho's run in sort of 2016, you know, the list of Jericho during that time period when Kevin Owens was the Universal Champion and Jericho was the United States Champion. Of course, Jericho actually won the United States Championship off Roman Reigns, but ever since Jericho has left WWE, Roman Reigns is completely different. The Roman Reigns that Chris Jericho faced off against in 2016 and around that period of time, that was, the big dog. That was Vince McMahon's vision of the babyface of the company and forcing it down people's throat. Roman Reigns. It wasn't the tribal chief. It wasn't the OTC. It wasn't the bloodline, the head of the table version of Roman Reigns. So given the star power and given the fact that this version of Roman hasn't faced off against Jericho before, it certainly could be very interesting. Now, you question what would the matches look like. Jericho feels at this point is very limited in the ring, certainly not what he was previously. Maybe this time off, maybe this time away from AEW before possibly going back to WWE might be really beneficial for him and actually getting into shape and getting ready for one final run. Kind of similar to Cena this year, where started off a bit slow, but now is having fantastic matches. Roman Reigns works a very specific style of match anyway. It's not very high risk. It can be very slow. It relies on a lot of crowd participation, a lot of, crowd just going crazy because it's Roman Reigns involved in a match. So it would be interesting to see how they work that. And depending on what Jericho's schedule is like in WWE, that might depend on it too. We don't know if Jericho comes back, if he's going to be a full-time talent like he is in AEW, where he's on TV every single week when he has been on television. We don't know if he's going to have a similar schedule to a Roman Reigns. Remember that sometimes it's not even necessarily the talent that decides the schedule. You look at someone like Edge/Adam Copeland. He wanted to be on TV full-time. WWE didn't want him to be on TV full-time. They wanted to keep him special. So does it make sense to have a feud between two part-time talents? Maybe. I'm not too sure about that. But it would be a big match. And of course, Jericho, as I mentioned earlier on, he's been called a lot of things, a clout vampire, or he's getting involved in the Jericho vortex, or certainly in AEW, a criticism of Jericho has been that he always sidles up to whatever is popular, whatever is getting over, and make sure he's associated with it to keep himself relevant. Well, Roman Reigns is very popular, very widely known, so Jericho going up against him would be peak Chris Jericho behavior, wouldn't it? And finally, what about AJ Styles? Now, this is a very interesting one. Styles and Jericho have got a lot of history. Specifically, Chris Jericho was AJ Styles' first rivalry, first real feud once he signed with WWE back in 2016. The Monday Night Raw after AJ Styles made his debut at the Royal Rumble in 2016. He had a match against Chris Jericho. That rivalry then led to matches at Fastlane, and then, of course, at WrestleMania 32 back in 2016, where Jericho actually defeated AJ Styles on AJ Styles' WWE WrestleMania debut. Since then, of course, Styles has gone on to huge success in WWE, multiple-time WWE champion. He's won United States championships, Intercontinental championships, tag team championships. Of course, he's one half of the World Tag Team Champions currently alongside Dragon Lee. But Styles, a bit like Jericho, has opened up and said that his career is coming to an end. Styles has been much more explicit about it than Jericho has. Jericho hasn't really spoken about retiring or anything like that. But AJ Styles certainly has. He's said for the last couple of years that this contract is going to be his last and he's going to be finishing up soon. He even explicitly said, didn't he, in the promotion for Crown Jewel Perth just last month, that he's retiring in 2026. And the implication was it's probably going to be in and around WrestleMania season. So if Jericho does return to WWE in 2026, there will be this crossover where Styles and Jericho could have a final match. And maybe Styles is going to do the same thing that John Cena has kind of done, which is in his run before he retires, he's going to have a mixture of first time ever matches, but also he's going to resume rivalries that had happened a long time ago. And it would certainly be very full circle for AJ Styles, wouldn't it, if, let's say, one of his first PLE matches, excluding the Royal Rumble, was against Jericho. What if his last PLE match is against Chris Jericho? That would certainly be a very full circle moment. There was also the short-lived tag team of Y2AJ, which lasted for like 2 weeks. It was very much rushed together to make sure that they could have this feud, this match at WrestleMania. Maybe as part of this storyline, they reunite Y2AJ. They take the t-shirts out of the trash that was burned. So Jericho burned it on an episode of WWE TV. Maybe they reunite and sell those Y2AJ shirts once again. So I think Jericho versus AJ Styles could possibly happen if indeed Jericho returns to WWE in time before AJ Styles decides to retire. So there you go, guys. There are 5 possible return opponents for Chris Jericho in WWE. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know your opinions, your hot takes, your predictions. Is Jericho even going to return to WWE? Would you like to see him return or not? Let me know your reactions, as always, in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. As you can see right there, we're less than 170 subscribers away from 25,000. Our goal was to get to 25K in 2025. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Big couple of months coming up before the year closes. Of course, this month alone, we've got WWE Survivor Series War Games. We will be doing a live watch along and a post show for that. I know we've missed some recently. I've got a new puppy. So basically, it's been crazy. But we will be back for watch alongs later on this month for Survivor Series and for AEW Full Gear. Next month, of course, we'll have John Cena's retirement match. We'll have AEW World's End, plus everything else in between. So be sure to subscribe. Click your notification bell. You'll be notified indeed when we go live for all of those shows. Really appreciate everyone tuning in, as always, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.